Well, hello everyone, thank you again so very much for sitting down and joining me today. It's so very nice to meet you. If I haven't already met you in some way, shape, or form, my name is Ryan, and this video is bringing us, once again, wavering through the tropical storm to bring you today's feature presentation. And this one I'm very excited about. Today we're going to be talking about The Invisible Man, 2020's Invisible Man. Now, this one was one that obviously I did not catch in theaters. The last film that we saw in theaters pre-closing was Onward. Onward was the last film that we saw pre-closing, and I didn't do the in-theater rental for this one as well. I definitely see the merit in doing the in-theater rentals, and I think that it is a fantastic thing. However, for films that I'm pretty certain that I'm going to end up picking up at some point, it's hard for me to weigh the options when it's $20 for the in-theater rental versus anywhere from $5 to $10 more for the physical release. So yeah, be that as it may, but I'm getting sidetracked. We're talking about The Invisible Man. So this is obviously going to be a modernized adaptation, reimagining of H.G. Wells' novel, The Invisible Man. However, this is not the first modernized adaptation that we've seen of a Hollow Man, which I will talk about again. So this is definitely more of a socially conscious sort of take on it, where essentially you have Elizabeth Moss playing a character by the name of Cecilia, who is in a terribly abusive relationship, both physically, emotionally, and mentally. It's a very, very horrible thing where she is trapped and literally unable to leave. However, in the very beginning of the film, she does plot her escape and pull it off successfully to a degree. And the film then progresses, showing the trauma and the PTSD that is associated with an abusive relationship. However, then the news is revealed that her partner Adrian has committed suicide, and then as things start to progress, she feels that she is being stalked by somebody that she cannot see, and somebody who she believes is Adrian himself. So now this one, obviously they do showcase Adrian's work a little bit, where he is a leader in the field of optics. He is a tech entrepreneur and a very renowned scientist, which is definitely showing the parallels to the original H.G. Wells novel. Now, the parallels don't really stop there, actually, because I feel that this particular adaptation is a lot more faithful to the original Invisible Man instead of Hollow Man. So before going into that, let's talk about the merits of this particular film. The strongest merit comes from the performance of Elizabeth Moss. Elizabeth Moss is an absolutely amazing actor. She's incredibly endearing, and she is a national treasure, and I will defend that statement to the end of my days. But she delivers a fantastic portrayal of somebody who is really dealing with the grips of what an abusive relationship has left her with, the sort of trauma, the PTSD that I mentioned earlier, and really finding this character who is struggling with her own her own mental and emotional grief. But then obviously she is still being bombarded, she is still being attacked, she is still being stalked and manipulated. And so you're having that then mixed in with, obviously she is going to try to seek help, and then obviously seeming entirely insane, and she is beginning to unravel because of what is happening to her. Now, the character of Adrian in this particular film is very much closer to the character of Griffin in the original Invisible Man, which is, I'm going to try to do this. I believe I've got this. Yes, right there. So this movie is not that movie, and this movie is not Hollow Man, and Hollow Man is not, almost had it, that movie. And like I said before in my haul video, is that I would like to do a video talking about my take on remake, reimagining, adaptation, that sort of thing, because I do have some pretty strong opinions on all three of those, actually. And adaptations and reimaginings are one that I actually welcome. And the reason that I do that is because if you are not in line with the stance and the portrayal, what they're doing with the novel and with the story in this adaptation, and that's perfectly fine, because you may not like this, but we still have that. That didn't go away. So if you're really into that and you don't want that sullied, this isn't going to harm you. But I welcome a new life being breathed into it. And what I do like is that not only was new life breathed into this by having this more, very, in my opinion, very realistic portrayal of this. We are having a feminist stance to the film, but obviously it is broad a broad field that can be applied to many different people's lives. This particular is just showing a domestic violence situation because the fact of domestic violence is very, very common and very rampant in society. But I feel like I'm starting to get sidetracked from the original point that I was trying to make. It is late. I am starting to liking filming at night here in the drive-in. But the original point that I was making is that the character of Adrian is very much in line with the character of Griffin, way more than he was Sebastian, I believe, was Kevin Bacon's name in Hollow Man. Because in Hollow Man, Kevin Bacon, or Sebastian, basically becomes maniacal, or he turns insane because of, in a way, it's a cause and effect because of the situation that he's put in and the helplessness of the situation that he is put into. It brings him farther into insanity. Whereas Adrian is already very, very controlling. And that's very much how Griffin was in The Invisible Man. However, the scope is not so large, being where The Invisible Man was a monster because the Invisible Man wanted to take over everything and didn't care if it took a few murders to do that. And we're taking that exact same stance, that exact same type of character, and we're shrinking it down to a much more realistic and unfortunately relatable character, to where it doesn't matter what he has to do to control Cecilia, because he needs Cecilia because Cecilia does not need him. So obviously, with that being said, that this can be a very triggering movie for some individuals, and of course that is a very upsetting thing to have to go to, and I apologize if this type of movie, or me even talking about it, is triggering in some sort of way. But I do feel that this is a very powerful movie because it is a very empowering movie in that light. But let's go into the horror aspects of it, because The Invisible Man is a horror tale. It is a horror movie. It is a horror tale. So the design in this particular one is we have, actually, sorry, we're going to cut that out because I don't want to go into the finer details of the plot. I really just want to talk about an all-encompassing thing, sort of what you're going to get from the back of the film, and then my opinion and where that stands. I don't want to go into the finer plot, so I apologize for the brief, for the fast cut. So my point that I was trying to make, since I'm going to cut out my further point, is that how the horror is translated in this particular film, I think, is very, very impactful, and I think it works. There are a couple of jump scares, I guess. It's really par for the course in a modern horror film to have those, because they were par for the course in horror films before this. I mean, you know, it wasn't PG-13 horror that invented the jump scare. So there are some of those in here. It's usually by loud noises and things like that. But what I find to be the best is that this movie is not it's not scary. Like I said before, if it is a triggering film, then it is going to be much more horrific in that sense. But it is not a scary film, but it does have some very creepy moments, because when Elizabeth Moss's character of Cecilia, there are some scenes when she is looking around because she's feeling that she is being watched. And what's really terrifying about that is because we haven't, us being the audience, we haven't heard anything. We haven't seen anything. This is all based on her feeling of being watched. And normally in a horror film, we're able to hear, let's say we hear something rustle in the kitchen. We hear footsteps in the hallway, something like that. Something to give us some sort of a tangible sense. I mean, yes, Invisible Man, we know sort of what we're looking for in this. But when we hear something, we have a better grip. It sort of lets our mind start to attach to it a little bit easier. But when we have a character who is walking around simply because the feeling of being watched with Elizabeth Moss evokes that feeling fantastically in her performance, it really creeps us out. It makes us nervous because we have no idea what in the world we're supposed to be looking for. We don't know. We are following this with her, and that definitely makes it very nervous. I did find myself being nervous in those particular scenes because it is very hard to scare me. It's very hard to scare a lot of horror fans, but I found myself being nervous in a lot of these because we don't know exactly what we're looking for. And then on top of that too, as Elizabeth Moss, excuse me, starts to delve a little bit farther and her mind starts to, the grasp on reality really starts to become blurred and frayed. What I really like is that they will have, so they'll have, if I was playing Cecilia and you were playing the other cast of characters, what they will do is in the middle of that dialogue, when they're showing from Cecilia's point of view, you will have the characters that I am talking to, but then a blank space right next to them. And that is very powerful. It's a very easy, a very small thing to add into the film, but it really is huge. They're not doing, and what I really like is that there are no, there's not like a wavering, you know, effect, like a glittery effect, or maybe, there are a couple times when you will see evidence of somebody being there, but that's very few. You'll literally just see this blank space because that's sort of how her mind is working, and I think that is so impactful and really helps the whole tone of the film. I have very high praise for this film. This film did get a very, obviously, certified fresh. It has a 91%, I believe, on Rotten Tomatoes. It was very well received, and I think for good reasons. And another really cool thing is that during, when the film was pulled from, or it wasn't really pulled, when theaters closed down, it still did make a very good chunk of change from drive-ins. I think that's a really cool thing as well. So that's, stuff like that is always really cool. Special feature wise on this release, there are deleted scenes, some featurettes, and a director's commentary. Now with this being the 4K edition, if you are not only a big home theater purist, or you have your home set up for home theater, then obviously picking it up in 4K would be a no-brainer for you. However, I do not have a sound system, like a surround sound system. Oddly enough though, the previous owners of the house that I have, they did have it. And I've left the wires sort of future-proofing myself, and maybe in a way this is future-proofing myself for installing that at some point. But obviously 4K is a much more vibrant and fantastic picture, and that is the reason that I pick it up. So if you're really going into that more just for the visuals because you do not have the sound capabilities that really that 4K also benefits from, for if it's just the visuals like it is for me, then this is one that is not necessarily it's not one that you have to rush out to spend the additional $4 or $5 for a 4K release. But if you do want to future-proof, kind of like I'm doing with leaving the god-awful wires there, then definitely it would be a no-brainer. But it's not one of those movies where it is so very visually appealing, because there is so much of the film that is unknown, that is unseen. And like I said, with the way that they've done it with certain camera shots and with Elizabeth Moss's performance, it makes for a truly fantastic film. And I was very surprised at how much that I was going to enjoy this film, because I like Hollow Man. I like it for what it is. There's a second one, I think. I haven't seen that one. I think that came out maybe like 6 or 7 years after the first one. I don't know anything about Hollow Man 2, but I like Hollow Man and I like The Invisible Man. I would like to do a full, because like when I've said in my haul videos that I've only seen the original 1930s original Invisible Man many years ago on a VHS. I have never seen a remastered and restored version, so that's going to be a treat. And the other 5 movies in that collection I have not seen at all. And I don't own Hollow Man in my collection, so I would like to get Hollow Man in my collection, watch all those movies, and we can talk about the legacy of The Invisible Man. That would be really cool. But anyways, that is my opinions and my thoughts on The Invisible Man, the recent film. Guys, thank you so much for sitting down and joining me today, listening to me talk about The Invisible Man for today's feature presentations. If you have an opinion or a comment about this film, please leave a comment down below. We'll have a longer discussion. If you just want to say hi, I'll say hi back. All of my social media and contact information can be found in the description box down below. But other than that, I will catch you guys on the next video, and I hope that you enjoyed the rest of your day.